Alright, what's up everyone? I wanted to make a quick video talking about the brand new set bonuses that we're receiving in Monument of Triumph. While we aren't even close to knowing every single one of them, the 4 that we do know already have me pretty excited. Typically with set bonuses in Destiny, they were never a forefront or a thought in your build. You could pretty much run anything in the game without really having to worry about a 4-piece, and while that probably will still be the case for the most part, I think you are now actually going to be able to build around some of these brand new set bonuses, which is really cool. Set bonuses are one of the coolest things added to Destiny, I think, in a while, and I'm happy this time around they're diving into the build crafting aspect instead of just having it be an extra little boost to whatever you're already doing. While we've had some goated set bonuses in the past, say something like Fair Potent or Smoke Jumper, we've never really had any that play around specifically into a subclass. The Lustrous Armor from Solstice is really the only thing that came close, being able to play around Solar, but even then it still didn't have any verbs playing around these subclass in general. You could argue that maybe something like Swordmasters or Tech Sets, since they allow you to play around certain weapons, but in my opinion that is still not a big enough reason to actually try to build around them, and I think that is where these new set bonuses are actually going to come into play. So let's jump into our first new set bonus, and this is going to come from SRL. So the 2-piece is called Revving Up. Fast movement builds up a charge that gradually increases your health generation speed. Once you're at fully revved, sprinting grants speed booster. And what's going to determine if this is good or not is depending on how this fast movement part works. If this is available for just sprinting around, which I imagine it will be, this could be very strong. But if you're only allowed to build up charges when you're doing things like eager edge sorting, or even, I guess, riding the sparrow since it is SRL, I don't know how good this would be. But the cool part, as we just read, once you are fully revved, you actually will be granted speed booster. So speed booster is sort of an arc verb, but this isn't the first armor set to actually be able to grant this. The Aeon Renewal could also grant it as well. So it's not a crazy new thing, but having the potential to speed booster sprint around the map, which also theoretically should increase your health generation speed, could actually be a pretty good thing for becoming tanky in PvE, and also in PvP this could be very solid as well, because the more health generation speed, the faster you can get back into a fight, and if you proc this very often, I think it has the potential to be very good. And that's just the 2-piece. If you move on to the 4-piece, we have Dielectric Drift. So sliding while speed booster is active, it jolts combatants in front of you. So this is what I was talking about, where it seems these new set bonuses are going to play into more subclass verbs, because now being able to just jolt people off of sliding seems very strong. This obviously pairs extremely well with the 2-piece set, because you want to build up a bunch of movement speed to get the speed booster, and then when you have speed booster proc, now you can jolt everything. How good this is simply going to determine if there is a long internal cooldown for this 4-piece to proc. If there's no internal cooldown and you can quite literally jolt everything when you slide, you could potentially see sliding builds come into play. Maybe even throwing on something like Dune Marchers if you're a Titan, because you get the enhanced slide, and you can also build up the electric energy with that as well. There's a whole bunch of things you can do, even from just normal arc builds. Throw in something like Crown of Tempest, so whenever you get jolt kills, you get increased ability regen. This could obviously work just on neutral, because you could just slide around and jolt enemies. And the other thing to note, it seems like you only have to have speed booster to proc this. So if you're playing arc or have any other way just to grant speed booster, you should be able to activate this 4-piece set without even having to worry about getting it from the 2-piece set. So I think with this specific set bonus, it's actually going to open up the doors for some pretty crazy arc builds, not only because you can get that speed booster pretty quick at them, which in return will grant you that increased health generation, but on top of that, you're also going to just be able to jolt a lot more stuff now. With all the artifacts coming back as well, there's potential to be able to play around jolt with that too, and I'm very excited, and this set bonus actually looks really cool. But now let's move on to the Crucible Set Bonus. So this is going to have the 2-piece Scoop to Loot. Absolutely love that name. But sliding collects nearby ammo and temporarily grants enhanced reload speed and handling to your weapons. So even though this is a Crucible armor set, this 2-piece already seems pretty solid for PvE as well. Clearly it's designed for PvP in mind, because you could just slide, pick up a brick, now your weapons are going to just have more bonuses. But on top of that, being able to slide and pick up ammo around you in PvE could have some crazy potential as well. Things like Shoot to Loot and the right of the 9 grenade launcher, because of its origin trait, already see a pretty good amount of play in PvE because of it just being able to collect ammo anywhere you're at essentially. And this basically could just add another layer on top of that without really having to worry about those things in general. All you have to do is just slide and you can pick it up. This is obviously going to depend on how far the range of Scoot to Loot is, but if it's pretty generous, I could definitely see this being very good. On top of that, you also get increased your load speed and handling for sliding, which is going to be very good for DPS phases in general. If you have something like Slide Shot on a heavy weapon, you could just shoot slide, shoot slide, shoot slide. You're collecting all the ammo, you're getting all the handling and reload speed, which I guess reload speed at that point doesn't matter, but the handling would. And you can obviously see there's some pretty crazy potential setup here just for a 2-piece. But now let's move on to the 4-piece, which is Shoot to Scoot. Dealing damage with your weapons temporarily grants enhanced slide, gain damage resist while sliding. So this is obviously going to play back into the two-piece very well. Now you're going to have a better slide and you gain damage resist while sliding. The amount of damage that you have to deal to get this to proc is what's going to determine if this is very good or not. And I definitely think this leans more towards a PvP setup than PvE. Yes, damage resist in PvE is obviously very strong, and if it is like a crazy amount, then I can see it, but you're already going to be competing with things like Therapotent Smoke Jumper. I don't really see a world where you want to take a 4-piece of this unless you really just want to play around the 2-piece, but then you could also just take a 2-piece Smoke Jumper, 2-piece Scoot to loot, and you would still be good to go. But being able to deal damage and get that enhanced slide, if it's actually pretty far, I could see being in like a 1v1 and you need to get out of that engagement. You have the shoot to scoot proc now, you can slide out and you get the damage resist, so hopefully they won't kill you with the last bullet on the way out. It seems pretty good. I'm not like too crazy about this one, but I do like the synergy between the 2-piece and the 4-piece. But now let's move on to the competitive set bonus. So this is going to be the Per Audacia armor set, and the 2-piece is called Primary Chain. Primary ammo weapons final blows grant a stacking bonus to mobility and primary weapon range and handling until you're defeated. So straight off the bat, this is not really going to be a PvE thing. Obviously, range is not the craziest thing needed in PvE. Handling is good, but I would not try to build around this at all. Now for PvP, this is going to be probably the best 6s set bonus that is in the game if you are just trying to go on just kill streaks in general, right? If you're more focused on just winning 1v1s, they're for sure going to be better set bonuses. But if you're just trying to slay out and get as many kills as possible, as we know so far, is by far going to be the best set bonus that you can use. It essentially is just kind of giving you built-in killing win to all your weapons, and I think that is very cool. But moving on to the 4-piece, we have Sublime Transit. So increases mobility and grants enhanced sprint speed and slide distance. Now it is worth noting that these are not going to stack with exotics and abilities, but they will stack with other movement speed increases via things like lightweight and killing wind. While clearly this is PvP focused, I guess you could kind of use it for PvE. Maybe it could be as some sort of speed running tech because you just constantly are going to get the faster movement speed, or maybe you could even use it for traversal parts and jumpy puzzles. But for the most part, this is obviously going to be based around PvP. What I think this opens the opportunity for is, say you're dedicated to something like transverse steps or stompies. Wearing this 4-piece set bonus should theoretically now grant you the reason that you run those in the first place, which is going to be the increased sprint speed and distance, maybe the jump for stompies, but again, mainly the sprint speed and distance is what most people are going for. With something like transverse steps, yes, you could sprint and reload, which is a nice benefit, but if you can take another exotic while taking the set bonus, that means you can run this 4-piece set bonus to get the effects of transverse steps while also being able to run Ophidian aspects as well to have that increased handling. So you're going to be able to mix and match a lot of combos when it comes to PvP, and I think that is very cool. But you also have the opportunity where, say you still want to run transverse steps or stompies, you can just not take this 4-piece set bonus, maybe take the 2-piece and then pair that with something else like shoot to scoot or anything of the sort, and you still are going to have a crazy effective build. I think what this is allowing is for you to mix and match depending on your exact playstyle. And if you really like that fast-paced movement speed while also wanting to run another exotic, this is by far going to be the best 4-piece for you to take. While on top of that, you also get the nice little added 2-piece benefit of getting increased range, which can help you win 1v1s if you have stacked it up. I'm not sure what the cap on that is going to be, but if you can get most of your guns to the 100 range stat with this 2-piece, that is obviously going to be very, very strong. But now let's move on to the Trials armor set. So this is the Cruel Electrum, and this 2-piece is Primary Survivor. So when an ally is defeated, primary ammo weapons gain increased handling, reload speed, target acquisition, and reduced flinch. Bonus increase when multiple allies are dead at the same time or when running solo. So obviously this is playing heavy around the actual Trials game mode. However, it does say when running solo, so I imagine you can get these benefits as well if you are just doing anything solo, is how I read that, even though it does say when an ally is defeated. So I'm not too sure how that works, but it would be cool if they did implement it so if you run solo. Now, this can also be used in obviously normal Crucible as well. In 6v6, people are always going to be dying, so whenever they die, you're just going to get bonuses, which is very, very good. Having handling, reload speed, target acquisition, and reduced flinch is obviously more of a PvP thing, but even so, handling the reload can still come to play if you are trying to run this in any PvE activity. I wouldn't really recommend it over some of the other crazy set bonuses it looks like we're getting, but that is still an option. And then in PvP on top of that, if multiple allies have died, you're going to get even more benefits of this. So if you are doing solo trials or doing trials carries, this 2-piece set bonus I feel like is actually going to be very, very good. I personally don't like stuff like this when it relies on people dying, be it your teammates or yourself, because I would just rather have something so I could keep my teammates alive, or I also could just stay alive, anything of the sort like that. So I'm not like the craziest on this set bonus, but it does fit into the theme of trials, which I think is really cool. But But moving on to the 4-piece, we have Primary Phantom. So final blows with primary ammo weapons remove you from the radar for a short time. Drawing a weapon that does not use primary ammo will immediately end this effect. For everything I just said about the 2-piece, that does not apply to the 4-piece whatsoever, because if we're being completely honest here, this is probably going to be one of the best 4 pieces for Crucible in general. Being able to just remove yourself from radar on a primary ammo kill is insane. If this doesn't have some sort of internal cooldown, which I don't imagine it will, you basically can just stay off the radar forever if you are slaying out. While you do have to run 4 pieces to get this, that means you cannot take anything else when it comes to other set bonuses. You will have to use the 2-piece here based around your allies dying, which again still isn't like the worst thing, but the 4-piece I feel like is so strong, you are pretty much gonna just run this all the time. I do like that they implemented that whenever you draw a weapon that doesn't use primary, it will immediately, end the effect, so you can't just kind of sit in a corner with the shotgun. You do actually have to have a primary out for this to proc. But even with that being the case, this is still going to be insanely strong. And it kind of goes back into what I was saying before with the last armor set. You could kind of mix and match. So say you want to run transversal step to get that increased movement speed and run this 4-piece. Now you have increased movement speed and you are hiding off the radar, which is obviously very strong. But say you like being seen on the radar because it makes people push you more and you can get more kills. You can run that 4-piece with something else that can allow you to get kills easier. And that is kind of what they're going for here. I actually really like this. I think for the most part, most PvP players are probably going to run this 4-piece. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. But the cool thing about this is that they're all so good. It's actually going to have to come down to some crazy decision making on your end, depending on your playstyle in general. But let's move on to the final PvP game mode, and that is going to be Iron Banner. So this is going to have the 2-piece primary honing, increases handling and reload speed for primary weapons. Primary ammo weapons gain increased damage against non-boss combatants based on your weapon stat. So while the other PvP set bonuses were heavily focused around PvP, for some reason the Iron Banner one seems to be focused more around PvE, which I think is cool because I mean there already are some crazy good PvP set bonuses with the other armor sets, so they kind of just threw in a bone for PvE players here. So if you want to go farm some Crucible, you can do it here. So once again, like I said before, increased handling and reload speed for primary weapons is very good. Those are probably the 2 most important stats on any weapon in PvE other than like ammo regeneration. And with the primary weapons actually getting a massive buff, there's a strong chance primary weapon usage will come back into the limelight, and this is just an overall buff to them in general. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough, you also are going to get the increased damage to non-boss combatants. Depending on how much that is, it does say it's based on your weapon stat, you could just kill things faster. So this is a set bonus that is giving you a damage bonus, a handling and reload speed increase, and it also scales off of your stats in general. So this has the potential to be a very, very good PvE set bonus. Usually when it comes down to things in PvE, your top 2 things you're looking for is either a damage increase or a damage reduction. And this kind of gives you the opportunity to decide if you want to run something like this to have a damage increase, or if you want to keep on something like Smoke Jumper to get that damage reduction. However, when it comes to the 4-piece, it's called super cyclical. So final blows while your super is active, refund super energy when it ends. That is a crazy bonus to have. Again, this is just a bonus coming from your armor, no exotic, anything of the sort. You're just going to get super energy back after you get final blows with your super. Pairing that with the 2-piece that already is just going to give you more damage, you can obviously see the appeal of how strong this could be in PvE. And again, it comes from Iron Banner. You could pair this with things like Bad Juju to get the increased primary ammo damage, so you can build super faster, to then play into super cyclical so you can get that super energy back after you use your super. And I'm very interested to see how the 4-piece is going to work with other exotics that grant super energy back, because if that extra super energy you get back from the 4-piece stacks on top of the super energy you get back from these exotics, that is going to be ridiculous, and you're going to probably be able to spam supers all the time. It obviously is the end of live service, so I can see them just going all out and say screw it. If you want to just spam supers 24/7, take this 4-piece, build around a super stat, and take an exotic that synergizes with all this, and you can just spam supers the entire time as something like a GM. And I think this Iron Banner armor set has crazy potential to be one of the best PvE armor sets in the game for what we know so far. But now let's move on to the final set bonus, and this is actually going to come from the Shattered Throne dungeon. So this is going to have the 2-piece Queen's Foil Rush. Gain a powerful overshoot while performing your finisher. When you finish a target, release a slowing burst around you. So like I was saying earlier, it seems that these set bonuses are actually going to play into subclasses now. So this slowing burst around you actually is going to be the stasis slowing burst
burst, as from what it seems, at least from the image. So if you're playing into some sort of stasis build, this actually may be a reason to run this. You could pair this with any finisher based exotic, say something like Veil Winter's Home or Severance Enclosure, but you could also maybe stack this with something like Defiance from the Prismatic subclass, because that'll make it so if you have a stasis super equipped, you'll make enemies around you get slowed. If that slow stacks on top of the slowing from the set bonus, that could lead to a freeze. That could obviously be very strong as well. There's a bunch of cool stuff you could do with this. The other bonus, being able to get a powerful overshield when you go for a finisher, is also very nice. We already have things like the Proximity Ward mod in the game that does this, but I imagine if this is just going to do what that does, that's obviously going to be very strong, and it really plays into the theme of this set bonus. And if it stacks with something like Proximity Ward, I don't really know if you need it, because Proximity Ward already pretty much makes you unkillable, so I imagine this set bonus would also make you unkillable. I don't really know if you need both, but if you can, you could probably tank some absolute just ridiculous amount of damage. But again, the main part of this is going to be that slowing burst after you go for a finish, which I think is going to be very, very good. It can make for some fun finisher builds. Now, the 4-piece of this is going to be called Truth to Power, so gain increased damage resistance when you deal damage or land final blows. Finishers grant accelerated progress at max stacks. The recharge rate of your abilities is also increased. So the 4-piece here honestly seems very, very strong. Just being able to get damage resistance when you deal damage and kill enemies is obviously very, very good. Typically with other damage resist things, say something like Fair Potent, you have to regen health, which is also very easy to do, or even with Smoke Jumper, pick up orbs, which you kind of have to play around. This is just literally just playing the game and you get damage resist. But on top of that, if you go for finishers, you get accelerated progress for this, which I assume just means you just get more damage resist. But it also plays to the final part where at max stacks, you also will get the recharge of your abilities increase. So essentially just slaying out, you're going to be able to get damage resist and also increased ability regen for everything. So it is probably by far one of the best neutrals, just 4-piece set bonuses in the game. Again, to take this 4-piece, you're not going to be able to take anything else like Smoke Jumper. You will have to play around the 2-piece that this does provide. But again, getting that powerful overshield and the slowing burst isn't like the craziest thing in the game, but it's also definitely not bad at all either. It's a very good, just kind of neutral thing to have. Again, you could just become unkillable with the overshield when you go for a finisher. You slow everything around you, so stuff can't attack you that fast. And on top of that, the finisher is going to grant you that accelerated progress, which in return will mean more damage resist and more ability regen, which is very, very cool. Depending on the amount of stacks it takes to get the increased recharge rate, is going to depend on how good this is. If it's only like 5 or 10 kills, even at that, it's probably going to be very strong. And I guess also the duration of how long this lasts. If it's only like, you know, a 2-second increase to your increased regen, then sure, it's really not that good. But say this increased regen is something like the Heart of Praxic Fire or Sunsinger in general, or even something like Transcendence from a set bonus, that is obviously going to be very, very good, even if it is just like 2 seconds. But if it's longer than that, then this is probably going to be one of the best set bonuses to take. So as of recording this, that is all of the set bonuses that we know so far, and that is only scratching the surface of what's to come. You have to remember, every raid and dungeon is getting reset with set bonuses. Pretty much every playlist activity in the game is getting refreshed with set bonuses. Pantheon's getting a new set bonus. The portal activities are getting, I think, like 2 new set bonuses. There is going to be a lot of new stuff to build around, and if what they've shown so far indicates just how good the other ones are going to be, I absolutely cannot wait. It seems from the showing already, they do have an arc and stasis focused one, so I really, really hope some of the other set bonuses will actually focus around the other subclasses as well. Imagine if they have something for Strand where picking up Woven Mail grants you increased stats or damage or something of the sort. There's honestly a bunch of cool things you can do with these, and that's not even starting talking about the different combinations you could do with the different 2 pieces. Sure, if you want to go into a full 4-piece, you could, but there's going to be endless combinations with just doing 2 different 2 pieces, and I think it is going to be very, very fun to play around. Anyway, so that's going to do it all for this video. If you made it this far and enjoyed, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff, and also be sure to join our brand new community Discord server. Everything will be linked down below. If you're looking for a place to play this update and Destiny for years to come, or any other game, definitely be sure to join. We would absolutely love to have you. But anyways, that's going to do it all for me. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.